All right, everybody, we're back again. And what can I say? I love the Bhagavad-gītā. This book is so beautiful. It's so wonderful. Just reading this book, if we just dip in and stay dipped in and keep going, it becomes like nectar. The wisdom, the knowledge in this book. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but there's such a beautiful scene in the Srimad Bhagavatam where when Krishna leaves the earth and Yudhishthira, Arjuna's elder brother, seeing so many inauspicious omens, and Arjuna was away with Krishna, and then Arjuna comes back, and he can see the inauspicious omens, right in Arjuna's face, and he's like, something's very wrong. What is it? And he gives you all these different reasons why Arjuna might appear so troubled. And at the end, he says, "Or is it that Krishna's left?" And Arjuna says, "Yes, that's Krishna's left." And he begins to describe what happened and how he's feeling. And then he says, "But there's one thing that's maintaining me through all of this. And that is those instructions that he gave me on that battlefield." The Bhagavad-gītā. Just such a treasure, such a gift in life. Just this little book. In one sense, it's a little book, 700 verses. So much knowledge about life, so much knowledge about the self, so much knowledge about the world we're moving through, and so much knowledge about God, who's situated in the heart of every living being. Everything becomes clear when we read this Bhagavad-gītā. Now we're at chapter 13. We began it yesterday. We'll complete it today. We're in these chapters now, the last 6 chapters, which are about jnana, understanding everything correctly. And that means in the 3rd verse of this chapter, Krishna defined knowledge or jnana as understanding of 3 things. Understanding matter, the world that we're moving through, understanding the self or the soul, and then like the knower of, you could say matter is the field that we're within. The knower of the field means the self, and then there's another knower, and that means the super soul or God. The super soul and the self, these are spiritual energy, Puruṣa, moving around through Prakṛti, the material energy. And the name of this chapter in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gītā is Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. And I know for myself, it took me a long time to, what did they talk? Nature, the Enjoyer, and what does it mean? Maybe some of you are wondering too, but it's actually very simple. And it's those 3 topics that one needs to know. Nature is a translation of the word Prakṛti, which means the material nature, the material energy, Prakṛti. So nature means the material world, our bodies, and the world that we're moving through. The enjoyer is another word for Puruṣa, a translation of the word Puruṣa, which is referring to Lord Vishnu or to the super soul, the Paramatma. And consciousness is referring to the soul, to the self. Understanding these 3, nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness, the material energy, the super soul, and the soul. When you know this, then you know. When you know this, then you have knowledge. And that's what this chapter is all about. So it began with these questions from Arjuna, basically asking about 6 different categories. 4 of them have been covered. He asked about, tell me about the field and the knower of the field. And that was covered in text 2 through 7. Then he said, tell me about knowledge and the object of knowledge. And in text 8 through 12, he talked about knowledge in terms of the process of how knowledge develops in one. And in text 13 through 19, he spoke about the object of knowledge, which was the self and especially the super soul. And now, for the rest of this chapter, he's going to be explaining about Prakṛti and Puruṣa, matter and spirit. This was the other 2 things he asked about. And so here we go. We're going to go from text 20 all the way to the end of this chapter. It begins with a zoom out, right? If we're going to try to understand matter and spirit, Krishna, essentially, he says, let's zoom out. Text 20, he says, material nature and the living entities. Okay, those are 2 of the subjects right now, right? The soul or the jiva is the living entities, the material nature is the nature that we've been talking about. He says material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless, right? These aren't things that just popped up. These have been here forever. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of the material nature. In other words, when we hear about matter, often we hear the difference between matter and spirit is that matter is temporary. Krishna is saying it's not exactly that matter is temporary. Matter is eternal, but it's in an eternal state of change, right? It's always there. It always has been there. It always will be there. The material energy will always be here. In that sense, it's eternal, but it's temporary in the sense that it's in a constant state of change. The forms that it takes are always changing. So in that sense, when he says material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless, they're both always here. One is always in a state of change and one is always steady, right? Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Wherever we see something changing, that's matter. The world that we're moving through, our bodies are always changing. These are products of material nature. The soul is, which never changes, that's not a product of material energy. In text 21, he says, nature, the material energy, is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects. We actually don't change anything. We don't cause anything. But what do we do? Whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So spirit doesn't change. It experiences the sensation of change. How so? By identifying with matter. Matter is always changing. And when we identify with matter, we feel the sensation of change. And therefore, sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're excited, sometimes we're bored, sometimes we're elated, sometimes we're, we're up, we're down. We go through all these changes because we identify with matter. This is important. We have to own our own suffering. How do we cause it? When Krishna says that the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyment in this world, in one sense, there's two ways we can understand it. Yes, by identifying with Prakṛti, and two, by the choices that we make, the reactions come at us. This is the way a yogi sees. When I experience pain or suffering in this life, I say, it's my own fault. One, because I'm identifying with my body and my mind, and two, because I've done actions that the material energy is responding to. I can't actually move that material energy. It's being moved in such a way that it will help me, right? That it can train me, that it can reform me. So this is the way that the yogi thinks, that I can't actually move anything. Nature is the cause of all material causes and effects, but I'm responsible for my own sufferings because I'm identifying with this matter and I'm making choices even though I can't do anything. And so in text 22, in a sense, Arjuna could be asking, okay, describe how spirit becomes entangled in matter. What does that look like? How does it happen? And so he says, the living entity. Oh, and I want to slow down for a second. This idea, it may be a little bit difficult to grasp, that nature is the cause of all material causes and effects. You're saying that we don't change anything in this world. It sounds disempowering, but picture this. Take this. I want to share with you an image of a person trapped, or let's say plugged into a virtual reality. I always like the virtual reality analogies. And so picture a man sitting in a chair, and he's living in another world. He's sitting in a chair, but he's jogging down the street, right, in his virtual world, and he's experiencing it. He's convinced, he's feeling exactly as if he were running down a street, although he's doing nothing. He's sitting in the chair. It's the virtual reality that is making every change within that virtual world, and he is sitting in a chair doing nothing. Okay, in one sense, in that virtual world, he's not doing anything. He doesn't change it there. There's someone that's programmed that virtual reality that's responsible. So nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects. Whatever's going on in that virtual world is happening by the power of the virtual energy, right? Whereas he's making choices and he's experiencing that virtual world because he's identifying with it. Say he's running down the street in that virtual world, and suddenly some criminal comes running at him with a gun. He's actually in no danger. He's sitting very safe in that chair, but because he's identifying with that avatar in the virtual world that he's think is me, then he's going to feel frightened, right? This is the vision that Krishna is trying to get us to understand, right? We're moving through a virtual world. We're identifying with it. That's the cause of our sufferings. Okay. Now the next verse again, text 22. How do we get entangled in this world? Krishna says, the living entity in the material nature thus follows the way of life, enjoying the modes of nature. We're trying to enjoy the modes of the material energy. The next chapter, we're going to go into great depth about this. But in other words, because we are trying to enjoy it, because the man is trying to enjoy the virtual world, he's becoming entangled in that world. Now he's suffering in that virtual world because he wanted to try to enjoy the virtual world. So the living entity in the material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. Now, good and evil here, don't think moral here. Sad asad yoni janmasu. Sad asad, here it means like favorable and unfavorable, good and bad is really what it means. Good and bad, yoni janmasu. Yoni means like the womb, and janmasu means birth. So sad asad yoni janmasu means that because they've tried to enjoy this material nature, and then they got caught up in it, and now they're living under the law of karma. Every choice they make in that virtual world is bringing reactions that are carrying out over the course of lifetimes. So as a result of all this, sad asad yoni janmasu, we're taking birth in favorable or unfavorable circumstances. Sometimes we're born in circumstances that are very suitable for our happiness, temporary happiness. Sometimes we're taking birth in a body that and circumstance that will bring us suffering. Sad asad, good and bad. Sad asad yoni janmasu. We're taking birth in all these different kind of situations. Now I want to share with you another AI image. Let's take a man just like we had, but let's put 5 of them next to each other, right? And above them, you can see the screen of what they're experiencing in the virtual world. One man is sitting in the chair, and he's the man jogging down the street. And sitting next to him, there's another man, but in his world, he's in the body of a woman. He's identifying as a woman. He thinks, I am a woman. I am a woman running down the street, right? And another person is sitting in the chair, but he thinks I am a dog, right? In the virtual world, he has the body of the dog. He has the eyes of the dog. He's got the smelling power of the dog. And he's running around and experiencing the world through the dog body, identifying as a dog. And another person, exact same thing, but he's identifying as a bird. And in his virtual world, he's flying around as a bird, thinking I am a bird. And another person is sitting there, and he's actually in the body of a tree, like a plant, right? And he's experiencing the virtual world programmed as what it's like to be a tree. Each one of them is just sitting there doing nothing. And each one is identifying with a virtual avatar that is really not them at all. And you can imagine that each one of them might switch in the next life. And the man that's in the man's body might be in the woman's body. And the man that's in the woman's body may be in the dog body. The one in the dog body may be in the bird body, etc. We are moving through different bodies, each time identifying with them, enjoying and suffering according to our karma. Sada sad yoni janmasu, taking births in all these different ways. That's the nature of the self when it comes in contact with the material energy, right? Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. This is the nature and the consciousness coming together. And the consciousness is taking on different shapes provided by the nature. So now, Arjuna could ask a question. Earlier, you said that you were the knower in all the different bodies. That was like in the second verse. He's saying, or maybe the second or third. He says, do you also become entangled in this matter? Right? Are you like us? And that question isn't there in the Bhagavad-gītā, but this verse kind of answers that. This is real important. Text 23, beautiful verse. Upadras anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshvara. Yet in this body, oh Arjuna, there's another. There's not just in your body, there's not just one soul, there's two souls. Yet in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, the Puruṣa, right? Nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness, all three. Yet in this body, there's another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer, the upadrashta, right? Drashta means the seer, upadrashta, the overseer, overseeing everything. Who is the overseer, the permitter, the anumanta, and who is known as the super soul, right? Upadrashta, the overseer, anumanta, the permitter, bharta, the master, bhokta, the enjoyer, maheshvara, the supreme Lord. Now let's look again at these 5 men in the virtual reality. But now we want to have. Now we're going to see what's in the background of it all. Behind it all is the form of Lord Vishnu, the not just the Atma. All those 5 men, those little sparks in their chest, that indicates that they are all each an Atma, moving through the material energy in the form of a virtual reality, identifying with a different body, beyond it all, overseeing it all, permitting whatever happens in that world, right? That bird is flying, permitted by Lord Vishnu, right? The Puruṣa, the Puruṣottama, right? All of those 5 men are persons. He's Puruṣottama, the supreme person. All of them are Atmas. He's Param Atma, the supreme person, and he's the one that is you could say, the programmer of the virtual realities that they're all moving through. He's the Anumanta, the permitter. He's overseeing what they're doing, what their desires are, what they want, what karma they've accrued. He's the Upadrashta, overseeing all that. And he's the Anumanta. Then he's permitting them. Okay, you can fly. You can run like a dog. You have to stand still like a tree, right? You're a man, you're a woman. According to what you desire and how you've lived, what karma you've accrued. He's the master. He's the bhokta. The bhokta means the enjoyer. He's within the realm of enjoyment, the realm of spiritual pleasure. They're all locked in a world of constantly shifting pleasure and pain, the material energy, right? But he's the enjoyer. We are all also Puruṣa, but we're stuck in the world that's not designed really for us to experience our true nature. And so he's beyond it all. Okay, so now you've explained these 3, nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. What's the result of understanding all this? He says in text 24, one who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position, right? If you could talk to that person in the tree body or the guy running down the street in the virtual reality, and they could understand that you're not this guy running down the street and you're not this tree. You have a whole another existence. You take off your goggles and see yourself and see Lord Vishnu, and you'll be free. You'll be in the realm of enjoyment, the realm of spiritual pleasure. If you really know it and you really understand it, all 3 of these, then you'll be free. You'll not take birth again here, regardless of your present position. Now, how can one understand this? That would be the question, right? How can one understand this? You understand it through yoga, right? And so here, I just wanted to share this. This is an interesting, something worth speaking about is commonly we hear this idea of 4 different paths of yoga, the 4 paths of yoga. You see them commonly discussed, but I really don't know of any other reference in Shastra itself. Plenty in commentaries, but in the Shastra itself of the 4 different paths of yoga. But pretty much they're all just explained next. And so commonly the 4 paths of yoga are identified as Ashtanga or Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And we're going to go right through them right here. So in text 25, Krishna says, some perceive the super soul within themselves through meditation. He says, Dhyan, Dhyanein natmani pashyanti. Dhyana, through meditation, atmani, within, pashyanti, they see the super soul in there, right? Then he says, others through the cultivation of knowledge. Sankyena yogena. Through Sankyena yogena is essentially just another way of saying jnana yoga. Sankhya is an analytical process, a jnanic analytical process, yogena. So there's dhyana yoga, which is Ashtanga yoga, the meditative yoga, or sometimes called Raja yoga. Sankhya yoga, Sankyena yogena, the yoga of analysis, or jnana yoga. And then literally the next one is, he says, is karma yogena, and still others through working without fruit of desires. Right? All of these have been discussed to some degree in the Bhagavad-gītā already. And then in text 26, he says, and again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, right, they may not be a jnani, right, and be able to explain all the philosophy, but they begin to worship the Supreme Person. This is called upasana, right? They begin to worship upon how? By hearing about him from others. Shrutvanyebhya, hearing from others, right? Because of their shruti parayanaha, because of their being devoted to hearing about Krishna, about the Super Soul, from authorities, from people that understand it, that are representing it in the chain of disciplic succession as it's handed down. This was all described in the 4th chapter. They also transcend the path of birth and death simply by hearing, right? This must be very encouraging to Arjuna, because remember back in the 6th chapter, I don't think I can do that Ashtanga yoga. Now he's been saying, no, simply by hearing. Krishna's all along was saying, just hear from you, hear from me, Arjuna. And this Shruti Parayana, they're devoted to hearing. Shruti, the word Shravana, the process of hearing. Shruti, they're from the same root. And Shravana is one of the first mentioned practice in Bhakti Yoga. Shravanam. Shravana Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam Padasevana Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Apanavedanam. Shravanam. So those who hear, these Bhakti Yogis, just by hearing, they understand God in the heart. They understand everything. Okay. So then now, this next part of the Gita, I love it so much. This is, for me, it has so much to do with my prayers to Krishna, and my trying to transform in life, is trying to see the Super Soul in myself and see the Super Soul within everyone. And in this way, letting go of everything else, right? Seeing everyone for what they are, being able to understand the sacredness of all life. So the question could be asked, when I connect to this Super Soul within through yoga, how will my vision change, right? How will I see the world? Will I see it different? And Krishna says, oh, Arjuna, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the fields. But one who sees the Super Soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the Super Soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Okay, let's see that picture again of the 5 people in the virtual realities, and Lord Vishnu is behind it all, right? And that screen, what's happening in those screens, that's what's being destroyed, right? He's running in this certain body in a certain world, and at a certain point he can't do it anymore. That body gives up, or the trees in the background, they disappear, right? I'll read these again. Oh Arjuna, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, everything that you're seeing in that screen, in that goggles of yours, in that virtual reality, is only a combination of the field of activities and then you perceiving it, the knower of the field, right? But one who sees the Super Soul, you can see a little spark in the hearts of each of those creatures in the screen. One who sees the Super Soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that the soul and the Super Soul who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees, no matter what happens on those screens, no matter what's happening in the goggles, those people sitting in the chairs aren't affected, and Lord Vishnu is not affected, right? Try to understand the nature of the world that we're moving through and how we're transcendent to it. And then you really see. Then you're really seeing truth. And then comes this promise from Krishna. I love this promise so much. Text 29. One who sees the supersoul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination, right? Again, with Vishnu in the background and all these screens and all these different bodies, we tend to judge according to the body that we see on the screen. We don't generally see through that to the person who's within that body, who's experiencing the world through that body, the person sitting in the chair, right? We don't see that equality. We don't see that sacredness, that there is a spark within this dog and there's a spark within this bird. And we see the woman running down the street and we think, oh, we think about her body, right? We're judging everyone based on the body. The yogi is seeing the soul. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily seeing a physical spark there, but when they see that, they understand it so clear. Yes, this is a soul operating through a body. And because they're thinking that way, they're operating with a soul. And because they're feeling their own spiritual nature, I am a soul. I'm not dependent on anything external for my pleasure. External things can't rob me of my happiness. Then they can move through this realm, seeing the soul always. If our desires are overpowering us, then we're trying to see what can I enjoy in the virtual reality, and what must I avoid to be happy. But the peaceful-minded yogi, they're seeing the supersoul everywhere. They're not degrading themselves. They're not treating something that's sacred as if it's not sacred. They're seeing the sacredness in all life, and that's the vision that one gets. And Krishna says, when you've got that vision, then you approach you don't degrade yourself by your mind, you approach the transcendental destination. But then the question could be asked, but in our world, all the living beings in it are also different. How can I see the oneness of you everywhere in it? And let's go back to the first man sitting in the chair, and he's in his virtual reality. He says, one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Is he running down the street? Actually, he's not. He's just sitting in a chair. It feels like he's running down the street. When you understand that, you're actually starting to see. And then when a sensible man ceases to see all the different identities due to the different material bodies, let's go back to that image of Vishnu and all the different bodies, right? Or even the second one. All five people are sitting there. They each have a screen above their head. When a sensible person ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains the Brahman conception. All right. In other words, stop looking at the screens above them and identifying this is a man, this is a woman, this is a dog, this is a bird, this is a tree. And start looking at the people sitting in the chairs. Each one of these is a soul, all equal, right? Now you're starting to see. Look deeper into it, and you'll see it, just like the stereogram. Keep contemplating this, thinking about this, and looking into the world as you're moving through it. And you'll rise to the Brahman platform, because the screen is the temporary platform, right? Always shifting, always changing. Beneath it, the souls within it, they are made of Brahman, aham brahmasmi. And they are all eternal. You're separating the temporary and the screens and the eternal that's below it, each spark of spiritual energy. Now you've attained the Brahman conception. You're seeing on the spiritual level. And then Krishna is going to say, this is really interesting. This is really interesting. When you see this way, you will see. Well, I'll read the verse. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature, right? I see that all these people sitting in the chairs that they're beyond what's going on in the screen, in the virtual reality. Those with the vision of, I see they're eternal. Right? Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled, right? Even though these people are sitting in these chairs and it looks like the bird is getting chased by a cat, and another, the dog is running after a squirrel, and the tree is sitting there having to tolerate the sun beating down on it. No, that's not really happening. These men are sitting in chairs and they're not experiencing that, right? They're doing nothing. They're just sitting in the chair and they're not going through all of these material changes. They're actually not even entangled, right? Krishna says here, na lipyate. This is just such an important way to see ourselves and our circumstances. In truth, you are not entangled. Factually, you're not. It feels like we're entangled, but the entanglement is just taking place in the mind. Krishna says, na lipyate. It's all going on in your mind. It's not happening in truth. That's the virtual reality idea. I think it helps us understand that, right? I'm not a bird getting chased by a cat. I'm sitting in a chair. We are not entangled in this world. We are sitting beyond it, only in the sense that we've allowed our mind to get entangled, but we're eternal beyond it all. But then one could ask, but in the body, connected, here we are, right? We're living in this body. We're connected to it and connected to all the equipment that it's plugged into. How can I understand that I'm not entangled? Right? Here I am in the middle of it. And then Krishna gives this analogy. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. When we say the sky, think space. Think like in terms of the space is everywhere, right? It's all pervading. Similarly, the soul is situated in Brahman. The soul situated in Brahman vision. When I have this vision of eternity, it does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. I'm in this body, but I'm not. Ultimately, I'm disconnected from it. Right? Think about the building that you may be sitting in right now, and you're sitting in some space in a building. Like I'm in my apartment right here in New York City. And this space is here, and right now, if you stepped into the space, you're saying, "That's the apartment." That space is the apartment, right? That space has been shaped in a particular way and now is an apartment. But at a certain point, this building is going to crumble to dust and the space is going to be right here, still right where it is. Will it be the apartment? No. The space was space all along, and it's not changed by whatever temporary stuff is going on in it or through it or around it, right? If I had a bottle here, glass bottle, I could hold it up and there's space inside, there's sky inside the bottle. And it appears that the sky has taken the shape of the bottle. But then you crack the bottle and the space is still there. Oh no, it's not shaped like a bottle. It's just been space all along. So he's understanding as the sky does not mix with anything, although it's all pervading. Similarly, the soul with this Brahman vision does not mix with the body, even though you're in it, right? You know that I am not the shape of this body. I am Brahman. I am eternal. I'm beyond all this. Ultimately, I'm not entangled. I am a free spirit. I just need to let go of my misidentification with this material world. Now, if you're not you're in a sense, what he's saying is, Arjuna, you're not your body. You're just pervading your body with consciousness. Your body is a field. You are not that field. You are the knower of the field, right? And he says, just like the sun, right? First he says the sky, now he says the sun. Oh, Arjuna, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness, right? Your consciousness is spread throughout your body, but you're not that body. And the body, just like that bottle, is going to break and be gone, and your consciousness is still going to be there. You will still be there, right? You are beyond it. You are never shaped by it. You are free. And then Krishna again in the final verse, he makes another promise again. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the Jnana Chakshusa. All right, that's what he's trying to give him. See through this knowledge, right? Those who see with the eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body can also understand the process of liberation from bondage and material nature. They attain to the supreme goal. You'll be free, right? You will experience your own eternal nature, your own full knowledge and full bliss. In Arjuna, you can know it with me. You can know it as a person eternally. So this is knowledge, right? Knowledge of these three: nature, the enjoyer, consciousness, right? The material energy, the super soul, and the soul. Understand all three. Understand Krishna's nature beyond it. Understand how you're not shaped by this, that you're beyond it. See the soul in every living being, right? See the super soul everywhere. Don't become degraded. Elevate your awareness and you'll be free, right? And then when you leave this body, you don't take one of these bodies again. You transcend it. You enter into the spiritual realm. This is the knowledge upon which the firm growth in bhakti is established, or it rests upon it, right? Because if we're still identifying with the material energy, we're going to be drawn, pulled by it this way and that way. This is the knowledge that's growing, and then fully blossoming in bhakti. Tomorrow we go into the modes of material nature in depth. It's just another beautiful chapter, clarifying the way to understand our existence in this world. I love this 13th chapter. I love the 14th chapter. I love the entire Bhagavad-gītā. It's so good. Thank you all so much for spending this time with me. I'll see you tomorrow. Hari Om Tat Sat.